All right, what's going on, fam? Welcome back. Welcome back. Welcome back. Today's question of the day is the quality of the food that you eat a priority to you? In my opinion, and it's just that, it should be. And we will discuss this further in today's episode. Enjoy. What is going on, fam? Welcome to the Plants and PRs podcast, the podcast to help you move better, feel better, and in the long run, look a hell of a lot better. My name is Tyler Egan. I'm a certified personal trainer, and today we're going to be talking about some food, because let's be real here. Food's great. Food is awesome. We need it to survive, so for that reason alone, I think it's pretty fucking dope. But, there's so much surrounding food these days. Like, it's realistically, I've gotten this from other people. I've heard this plenty of other times before, and more recently I've thought about it, like, a lot. But food really is just fuel for us, just like gasoline is fuel for a car. Food is just fuel to give us energy, to keep us alive, so that all our body functions in optimal ways. And it's now being looked at as a sense of pleasure and entertainment almost. And it's insane to me, because I think back to how I had this quote unquote bad relationship with food. And it's just because I looked at it as like a way of treating myself or pleasuring myself, when it really, when you put it in simplest terms, it's just fuel for our body. And if we all start looking at it more like that and less like pleasure and a treat to ourselves, I really don't think we'd be in the current climate of the obesity epidemic. And even in COVID, the case of COVID, I announced it on the podcast the other day, but 6% of the deaths came from solely COVID. The rest had on average 2.6 comorbidities. I don't know where exactly. I actually heard a guy say that if you throw in all of the comorbidities that probably have nothing to do with COVID, so like Alzheimer's, dementia, and they named a couple other ones, we're still looking at about 50,000 deaths, which is still like a normal flu season. So I don't know how many of those people were obese or had an underlying condition that came from obesity, but it's a problem. It really is. And I feel like if we started looking at this more from the lens of food as fuel, we want to fuel our bodies, we want to give ourselves enough energy, we want our bodies to function properly. I mean, maybe, just maybe, we wouldn't be in this predicament. But it doesn't matter, because hindsight is 20/20, and we are in this predicament. So I wanted to talk about, if it fits your macros, quality nutrition, and honestly, the obesity thing as a whole. But for those of you who may not be aware of if it fits your macros, so basically you just get macronutrients and a calorie intake for a given day, week, whatever, and then you just eat whatever foods fill those that calorie intake and the macronutrient requirements. So let's say you're a human being, like we all are, who needs 2,500 calories, let's just say like 160 grams of protein. This math may not add up if you actually add up the macros. 80 grams of fat, and just for the hell of it, let's just say 400 grams of carbs. So if that's what you're working with, then you eat food throughout the day, no matter what it is, that fits those macros. And that's what, if it fits your macros, like the diet plan, I don't even know what people call it. That's what people do when they do an if it fits your macros type of diet. I think there's another name for it. Like, I guess it's non-restrictive at all. I really don't know what people would consider that, but I don't like this. And again, a lot of what you're hearing on this podcast is a lot of my own opinions. And what I believe to be true. Now, could I be wrong? Of course. Can other people have different opinions? Of course. Do I think people should do things the way I say? Probably not. But, I think if we actually did focus on quality instead of just fitting our macros, I think we'd be in a much, much better position. I don't think we'd have all this mental health surrounding food and all of these new movements happening, like body positivity, fat acceptance. Now there's thin privilege. And it's like, why do we keep making movements just because people don't want to take care of themselves? Damn it. It's like every time. Why do we keep making all these movements just because people don't want to take care of themselves? So, I mean, you can do an if it fits your macro style diet where you just get the macronutrients and the calorie intake that you need, and you fit whatever food in there that you see fit. Now, this can work for some people, but I recommend against it. And the reason I recommend against it is because you could be eating like a donut on this style of dieting or whatever you want to call it, meal planning. And so you could be eating things like donuts or cakes or chips or whatever in this style of eating. And I don't think that's good because what they put in a lot of these foods these days is highly addicting. It's not like people just started throwing shit in a recipe and voila, there was donuts. Over the course of time, they've perfected these things so that it keeps you coming back for more. I think there's a reason people find it so hard to go on a diet or to try to lose weight or try to cut weight or try to lose fat, however you want to phrase it. I think it's so hard for people because they're so addicted to the food they're eating. I've found it with myself. If I eat stuff that it's very high in sugar, people don't realize is we get that same dopamine kick that we get from drugs when we eat a lot of sugar like that as well. So I noticed it with myself that when I eat a lot of high sugar foods, like I get cravings for it and all these things. And most of the time, fruits will curb that craving for me. But I don't think it's a good idea for people to be doing it if it fits your macro style diet and fitting in complete garbage food. Look, if you live a relatively healthy lifestyle and you have some moderation of crap food, I think you'll be okay in the long run. I just don't agree with it. I think we need to start focusing on the quality. I mean, if you think about all of this shit food that's really out there, all of it's dirt cheap. Why is it so cheap? Why is it so cheap to eat unhealthy? And then everybody wants to claim that it's expensive to eat healthy. It's really not that expensive, depending on what you do. I mean, I haven't eaten meat in almost 3 years, so I can't speak for that. If you want to eat healthy and you want to eat like grass-fed beef, free-range chicken, wild-caught salmon, I don't know if that's expensive. That could be. But generally speaking, fruits, vegetables, whole grains, they're not that expensive. You can buy them in bulk for pretty fucking cheap. In the long run, like if you buy like a big ass bag of brown rice and split that up over your normal monthly cost, it would be cheaper in the long run. So realistically speaking, eating healthy really isn't that expensive. That's why I think we really need to start focusing on the quality of our food more. Now, I'm not saying you have to go out and buy all organic because not all organic is the answer either. One of the things I go off of is the Clean 15 and the Dirty Dozen. And let me see if I can find these real fast. I believe if I go on Dr. Michael Greger.org, Clean 15. Dr. Michael Greger has these lists on his website. Yeah. I'm going to link these for you guys just in case anybody's interested. But basically, he actually has a video. That's dope. So basically, there's the Clean 15 and the Dirty Dozen. Oh, this is the Daily Dozen he has. Okay, never mind. I'm pretty sure I first saw it on his page. Oh, well, it looks like other pages have it, so I'll link them. The Clean 15 are basically foods that are grown with little to no pesticides, and they're not sprayed nearly as much. The Dirty Dozen are sprayed a lot more, so those are the ones that you definitely want to buy organic. That's what I'm saying. Like you don't have to. Not everything that, like, quality of food doesn't necessarily come down to. Sorry, I just lost my train of thought there. Quality of food doesn't necessarily come down to buying organic versus traditional produce. What it comes down to is just buying quality food. I mean, buying actual food. Instead of eating some shit name brand bread with your, let's just say you're having eggs in the morning, or if you're a vegan like me, you're having tofu scramble. Why don't you buy like a quality name brand piece of bread, quality name brand bread, like Ezekiel bread or something like that, or not even having bread, maybe having brown rice or quinoa, or something that's significantly healthier for you than white bread or white rice. I mean, like, I'm not saying white rice is unhealthy. I don't know that much about it, but what I do know is the reason that it is low in fiber, just like white bread, is they take a lot of the germ and something else out of it. A lot of the nutrients they take out of it, which is what gives it that. It's why there's less fiber in it, why it's easier to digest and things to that effect. It's also why it has a different effect on your insulin and blood sugar. Okay, sorry, I just kind of looked at that article for a second. So I really do think we need to start focusing on the quality of the food. And if you are a meat eater, maybe it means, spend a little bit extra money on grass-fed beef or free-range chicken. You don't really know what they're injecting into those animals. I'm telling you, if you just look into factory farming and see what they do, I mean, I think it's important for everybody to know what they're putting in their body. And if you're a meat eater, for you to understand that, you have to also understand what they're doing to the animal before it gets to your plate. I mean, the same thing goes for people who eat just plants. Understanding the kind of practices the farms use that we get our food from. I think it's huge. It's definitely something I've been more mindful of lately, because there's a lot that goes into farming, and we have messed it up so much. I've heard that our soil may never recover from it. I've also heard that people who have gluten intolerances in the U.S. will go to France and have a croissant or something like that and not have any kind of reaction to it, just solely based off of the way that we grow our gluten here in America versus what the Europeans, I suppose, I'm generalizing all of them here, do. And that's crazy to think about, that just because of the way we grow it, it's starting to cause a lot more people to become gluten intolerant. That's insane to me. So I definitely think quality of the food needs to be emphasized more. Look, if it fits your macros, works for you, fucking do it. But I just don't think it's a good idea. I think it can create a lot of bad habits. I think there's a lot of people in society today, and I mean nearly everybody, who has some slight of addiction towards something. For me, I had a problem with alcohol. I used to smoke cigarettes. I have to limit my caffeine intake. I have to pay attention to these things. I think a lot more people are addicted to food than they even realize. Because I don't even know how much people realize addiction is real, let alone food addiction. This is real shit, guys. You need to stop sweeping it under the rug just because we're worried about hurting people's feelings. That's why I wanted to start making more podcasts like this. Obesity is a very, very real thing, and it's very, very dangerous. And nobody wants to talk about people who are overweight or tell them that they need to change this or that, because we don't want to infringe on people's way of living. And now it's creating all of these body positivity movements and fat acceptance, and now there's thin privilege. It's like, when are we going to stop making up all these movements for all these problems that we don't really have? People are now reflecting their views of themselves onto society. And that's a problem. Look, if you really don't care about what other people say when you're overweight or fat, then if someone calls you overweight or fat, it shouldn't bother you. You should just kind of understand that, because you're okay with it. Because this stuff needs to be brought up more. We need to have conversations. We need to have the tough conversations. That's what I see as the biggest problem in society today. And this is just my opinion, of course. We just need to figure out, or we need to have the tough conversations, and we're not having them. I saw something online this morning that said, be the person that you would have wanted when you were younger, or the person you would have needed when you were younger. And I think about that a lot. And I know I needed a swift kick in the fucking ass. Look, maybe I'm not the one to be talking about obesity because I've never been there, whatever. But I saw myself start to put on weight. I saw myself becoming very unhealthy, and I decided to take my life into my own hands and start making changes. I avoided the doctor back then, but I probably would have been considered a little bit overweight. I mean, from the time I graduated high school, in like the 4 or 5 years from high school to when I started taking my health and fitness way more seriously, I put on about 30 to 40 pounds. And I have a relatively fast metabolism. That was a lot of weight in a little amount of time, in my opinion. So we need to have these tough conversations because I think everybody needs more of it. I certainly did. I definitely did. I wish somebody would have told me, yo, put down the beard, dude. It's not good for you. You're unattractive. You're not taking care of yourself. You're getting fat. I wish somebody would have said it to me. Point blank and period. I wish somebody would have said it to me. So we need to have the conversations. And the reason being is because society is so stacked against a healthy lifestyle these days. I mean, think about it. Not everywhere, but a lot of places, food is way more accessible. You can walk down the street and go get McDonald's and not have to cook or anything. On top of that, especially in cities, especially with COVID, not being able to get outside, people have no way to exercise just because they're stacked on top of each other in big, large cities. And because of something like COVID, we weren't allowed to go anywhere. Now, luckily, I live in the suburbs, so I didn't have to deal with that. But it's a real issue. It's a real issue. I mean, and even around here, plenty of people weren't exercising during COVID. I mean, it's still kind of going on. But, it's stacked against us. Food is way more accessible. It's highly processed. It's very addictive. It's very, palatable, I guess. I think that's the right word. And exercise isn't as talked about. It's almost a bit more demonized these days. Because we're worried about, hurting people's feelings? We need to start correcting this. We need to start educating the youth more on this. 100%. I mean, I think there's some education going on now about health and wellness. It seems like it anyway. But there needs to be There needs to be more. I mean, obesity is so much more than... It's not just being fat. It's an actual medical term for a reason. Overweight and obesity are defined as abnormal or excessive fat accumulation that may impair health. That's what being obese is. It's an actual scientific term. It's not designed to hurt someone's feelings. If you're getting your feelings hurt because you decided that you were just going to continually let your life go and become overweight like that, that is on you, my friend. Excuse me. That is on you. It needs to be talked about more. I mean, a lot of things can come from it. And we already know. I've did a whole episode on obesity itself, but all the other lifestyle-related diseases, like things like stroke and heart disease and type 2 diabetes, they can all come from being overweight or obese. You can also damage your DNA from being overweight or obese. More from the obese side. Infertility is a thing when you become obese. And from what I'm hearing these days, it sounds like my generation, the millennials and probably younger, there's a lot more infertility in the world than there used to be. The other thing it can cause really a lot of is inflammation in your body. And I got a little definition for you. Inflammation is a process by which your body's white blood cells and the things they make protect you from infection from outside invaders such as bacteria. So your body's like constantly fighting. It's producing white blood cells to fight these things that you're constantly doing to yourself on a daily basis by eating shitty foods, not taking care of yourself. Inflammation doesn't always just go away. Apparently there's two types here, acute and a chronic. Jesus Lord, the work emails already. Sorry, guys. Chronic inflammation can last months or years, even after the first trigger is gone. Conditions linked to chronic inflammation include blah, blah, blah. I'm not going to read all those. I'm going to leave the links for you guys if you want to check it out. But here are some symptoms of inflammation. But keep in mind that not all, if you have, because like one of the ones is joint pain. If you have joint pain, it doesn't necessarily mean that you're obese or anything like that. The two, it doesn't correlate like that. It just could, if you have an injury, you're going to have inflammation there. It's a natural process for our body to go through. The problem is it shouldn't stay in an inflamed state for a prolonged period of time, or serious issues can arise. But here are some symptoms: redness, a swollen joint that may be warm to the touch, joint pain, joint stiffness, a joint that doesn't work as well as it should, fever, chills, fatigue, headache, loss of appetite, and muscle stiffness. So, I mean, it's a serious issue. You can lead to a lot of more serious issues. Wow, holy shit! I'm on that definition of obesity I got off the World Health Organization's website, and apparently, more than 1.9 billion adults were overweight in 2016, and 650 million obese. That's crazy. That's really crazy. But I don't know. I hope I've gotten my point across to you guys as to why we need to talk about all these things more. Because it's a really, really serious issue. Not only is society stacked against us and, people demonizing those who want to take care of themselves, and they project their insecurities onto you, but it's also stacked against us in the way that food is way more accessible these days. It is also it's almost like society is designed for us to be more inactive. We have cars and trains and planes and automobiles, but we have all of these things that, they have those hoverboards these days. So kids aren't even walking around town. They're hoverboarding. Come on. What the fuck does that do? I've seen skateboards with motorized engines, or whatever you want to call them. Motorized skateboards. Let's just call them that. That's insane. Everything is being created so that we're being less active, less responsible for ourselves. That needs to change. That needs to change real soon. So let's start focusing on the quality of nutrition. Let's start having these conversations about overweight and obesity. I know it's a tough conversation. I know people don't want to hear it, but they have to. Especially if you're one of those people who wants kids or has kids. I think you owe it to them. Especially if, you just have family who loves and cares about you. You owe it to them. I don't want a single person in my family to have to take care of me when I'm 70, 80, 90 years old. I want to take care of myself. I want to have all of my mental capacity. I want to be able to lift weights still. And it starts with what we do now. Depending on where you're at. But, even if you're in your 50s, 60s, 70s, it's never too late to start making these changes. It's never too late. You just might have to approach it a little bit differently than someone who's younger. That's all. But we need to have the tough conversations. We need to start focusing on the quality of nutrition. Stop stuffing our face with crap. All of us. Myself included. And start taking cold showers. Sorry, random fact. I wanted to throw that in there because I've been taking cold showers more. Well, the back end of the showers have been cold. Like the last 5 minutes. Not even. My shower's like 5 minutes. Like the last minute. And it's been like awesome. Just try it. It's worth it. I'm telling you. So that's the show today, guys. I hope I made you think a little bit. I hope my perspective might have changed the way you thought a little bit. Hope you took something from this. If you did, please leave a rate and review on iTunes. Share the podcast. Again, all of the shows will be up on YouTube as well, most likely, unless I can get a better grip on it, at nighttime, at least nighttime here, which will have a thread. I will begin with the question of the day. For those of you who want to have a conversation about it, or just leave your opinion, or whatever the case may be, check it all out. And I will check you guys out in the next episode. Peace. Thank you for watching the entire video. If you enjoyed it, please hit the subscribe button, the notification bell, and stay tuned for more, because I'm going to start uploading more podcast episodes here. And yeah.